When Moscow was slapped with unprecedented sanctions, everyone thought the Russian economy would be done in a few months.
Fortress Russia is gone.
The ruble collapsing.
And the economy is expected to sink.
Isolate and weaken the Russian economy.
But the worst forecasts haven't come to pass. According to The Economist, an influential British magazine famous for its unflattering covers, the Russian economy actually did a lot better than expected. Soaring oil and gas prices and dwindling imports have pushed Russia's trade balance to a new high. The ruble, Russia's national currency, roared back after the initial drop and is still stronger than before the war. But what if these sanctions are hurting Russia in the long run? To check this, I traveled to the same Russian village I visited 6 months ago to see exactly what had happened to the people there who claimed sanctions weren't that big a deal. It's a tiny village in one of Russia's poorest regions, which doesn't have much except for hard-working people, an endless forest, and one Danish YouTuber, my good friend Lars.
Hello there guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to Survive Russia.
A lot of things have happened since Lars and I made the first video in July 2022, which, by the way, has gained over 1 million views. You should definitely check it out to get the big picture. The US and EU have rolled out a bunch of new sanctions. Russia has faced bitter setbacks on the battlefield and launched mobilization.
There were 22 guys mobilized, all in all from our region.
Let's see if ordinary Russians are starting to feel the crunch.
Fuel has gotten more expensive at this gas station.
And what they have to say now that Russia is 10 months into its worst economic standoff with the world's wealthiest nations.
Тяжелее жизнь становится.
Конечно, тяжелее.
And now there's more cheaper German import beer than before.
When you step out of the train in the middle of nowhere Russia, well, anything might happen. Whoa! Ooh. Oh! Someone forgot to scrape the ice off the platform, which is not surprising given the scarce traffic at the station.
Oh, чуть-чуть ударил. It's the second time I get off at this train station, and it just doesn't cease to amaze me that I'm the only person to leave the train. And that is a Trans-Siberian Express, the largest passenger train in Russia. So I guess this train is one of the least popular destinations in Russia, from Moscow to Vladivostok. All right, now let's go find Lars. I think it's him. Lars? Good to see you.
Welcome to Russia.
Absolutely, Mother Russia. That's what Russia, really looks like.
It was nice to see an old friend and finally get out of town to wild and frozen Russia.
What was the biggest change in this village over the past 6 months?
And it became winter.
On YouTube, Lars is a prepper who's been pushing himself to the limit in one of the toughest places on the planet, Russia's taiga.
Good morning, guys. I have slept better. I've definitely also slept worse.
Off camera, he's a family man who lives in a traditional wooden house with a beautiful Russian wife and 3 awesome kids. And after living here for over a decade, Lars definitely knows something about rural Russia, maybe even more than I do.
Nobody's gonna try and go and push over Putin in Moscow because of sanctions. It's Russia, you cannot do that. This is not how it works here. And that's how it works in the States, right? What happened to the truckers in the Canada and the States? Every regime will go to great lengths to protect itself if and when it's needed. In the meantime, we can play democracy.
Just like the last time, our first stop is a local gas station. It's exactly the same station we stopped by in the summer.
All right, shall we tank up?
A little bit, but it's gotten expensive.
Diesel has risen in price by 9%. That's the sharpest increase. The rest is not that bad. Premium has risen by 1.3%, regular by a little bit over 1%. But that's in rubles. In US dollars or euros, the prices have even come down a bit because of the currency fluctuations.
A hungry Range Rover. Oi!
Have you ever said to yourself, like, nah, I'm gonna skip this drive, just, save up on fuel?
No. Here, if you have to drive, you have to drive, because what should I walk here, right? It's gonna take all day.
Let me know how much you pay for gas in your country and how it affects your daily life. While filling up a car hasn't gotten significantly more expensive in Russia, owning one definitely has. Among the myriad of problems that the Russian car owners have been facing since February 24th, one is front and center: auto parts for foreign vehicles. Even in Lars's village, many people drive old European and Japanese cars. And when sanctions cut off the spare parts supply, it sparked fears that Russian roads would soon look like this or this. Lars himself drives an old Volvo and Range Rover and gets a lot of teasing questions about it on YouTube.
Hey Lars, just wait till your Volvo starts breaking down, or the phone, or TV, etc. Well, I guess what he means is that Russia might experience shortages of like Western supplied spare parts, machinery, that kind of stuff.
Everything has already been sorted out with importing it via most likely Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and so on, because there are no shortages of spare parts for foreign cars.
I didn't want to take Lars's word for it. I knew that in Moscow the issue of spare parts had gotten less acute thanks to parallel imports, but that's in Moscow. I was wondering what the shelves in a typical auto parts store in provincial Russia looked like.
Запчастями все нормально?
Да, цены падают, масло падает. Shell появился, обратно приходит в Россию.
А Shell ушел официально?
Официально он ушел, сейчас его начинают возить с Италии. И, допустим, у него цена была в закупе раньше 5 с лишним, а сейчас обратно вернули на 3700.
Several major companies that produce motor oil like Shell, ExxonMobil, and BP said they would leave the Russian market over the war in Ukraine. But in this shop, it certainly didn't feel like Western engine lubricants are in short supply.
Mobil, Liquimoli, немецкий, German.
So after all, we have everything.
Мотор.
Они-то все равно тоже понимают, что они без нас жить не могут. Мы у них запчасти покупаем, они этим тоже живут. Если они, грубо говоря, всю Россию обделят, а в России сколько миллион проживает, то у них сколько уже убыток будет по запчастям. И точно так же мы зависим от них, грубо говоря, от масла. Ну, нам надо в машины что-то заливать, потому что наш АвтоВАЗ, он, так не подготовился.
Our conversation quickly shifted from engine lubricants and auto parts to geopolitics and foreign affairs.
Война не так просто с Украиной. Из-за кого-то.
Из-за кого?
Америка. Из-за кого? Так?
Так ли?
Ваше мнение?
Войска-то наши воюют, не американские.
Я понимаю, но кто все начал? Они же ведь не именно в этом году раззадорить. Они в 2014 году также пытались раззадорить. До этого, я не помню, 7-й какой год, тоже до этого пытались все раззадорить. Это все Америка начинает. Да почему умный? Просто даже смотришь новости, делаешь выводы свои, все.
So we're heading to see the brothers who run a farm. When I interviewed them 6 months ago, they complained about spare parts for farm equipment, that it was very expensive and hard to get.
Вот насос, вот этот стоил перед войной 4600. Сейчас он у нас в магазине 21 тысяча.
Well, let's see if the situation has gotten even worse, or maybe they found a solution.
Слушай, кто-то приехал. Вот,
Как дела?
да ничего, все, работаем.
After watching the first video I made in July, many people suggested in comments Zhenya and his brother would be called up to fight in Ukraine. Although technically they're both eligible for mobilization, their lack of military skills and experience has pushed them to the back of the line, at least for now.
По большому счету, вам просто повестка не пришла.
Да.
А если бы пришла, вы бы пошли?
А деваться-то некуда было.
Бежать из страны.
А куда?
Ну, многие в Казахстан, в Грузию.
А когда они там быстро закрыли все границы, я смотрел новости.
Ну да.
Некуда бежать. В армии только.
The Western media has reported that mostly men from poor and rural areas were drafted because they have few options but to join the military. On the other hand, 300,000 rubles, or around $4,300 a month offered by the Russian government for signing an enlistment contract, is one hell of a sum by local standards. People told me off camera that there were draft dodgers in the village, but among those who received draft notices, the majority decided to join the ranks.
There were 22 guys mobilized, all in all, from our region, which is around
10,000 people. Around 10,000 people.
Guys were trained and they are still in Russia. All together we collected some goods though and collected some money, and old women made who know how to knit, they needed socks for the front. Kids made letters to soldiers.
It could be worse in other regions. Here, though, the small number of draftees and the fact that there haven't been any death notices yet has kept the local community relatively calm. Besides, there's always plenty of work in the village that distracts people from grim thoughts. Zhenya, for instance, found his old tractor wanting by the end of the harvest season. But getting a new one is not in the cards. Farm equipment, both foreign and domestic, has become less affordable since major Western manufacturers pulled out of Russia.
Мы хотели картофелеуборочный комбайн взять, пытались, нам сказали, через Белоруссию Польша работает. То есть в Россию завозится, через Белоруссию уже в Россию заводится.
Но вы не стали брать.
Там слишком дорого.
И что вы вместо вот этого дорогого тогда, что вы...
Мы точно такой же нашли в России, только уже поработавший, который работал в России.
Another blow to their income was when YouTube stopped monetization in Russia.
Всех приветствую, вы на канале Русский фермер.
That means if viewers watch you from Russia, you don't get paid. So even the small income the brothers got from making videos about their village life has gone out the window. Lars's channel is better off since he's got a foreign audience, but he found out recently that he can't withdraw money from his Patreon account anymore. That's the platform that many YouTubers use to receive donations.
Payment service that no longer pay payouts to Russia, the Russian Federation.
Sanctions are tough on YouTubers rather than on villagers.
But that's what they say. But sanctions are not for the ordinary people. It's just so that Yeah, I don't know. It's for the ordinary people, in my opinion.
Feel free to check out Lars's and Zhenya's channels. Give them a thumbs up to support them. Zhenya has even been thinking of quitting YouTube as it's not bringing in much money and there's so much other work to do around the farm.
И продаем по телеге. Телега 6500.
Одна телега вот такая стоит 6500 рублей.
Обычно берут 2 телеги на зиму. Ну, это без бани, наверное, так. В среднем 3 с запасом берут.
So this whole thing full of wood costs 6,500 rubles, which is a little less than $100 US. So let me know how much you pay for timber in your country.
One thing that life in Russia has taught them, never put your eggs in one basket. You never know what's around the corner. That's why the brothers try to make money out of everything, be it selling firewood, growing potatoes, or breeding cows. This year, food inflation has pushed the beef price up by 20% in Russian slaughterhouses. That threw Zhen and his brother a lifeline.
Почему мясо подорожало?
Я не знаю. Мне нравится, когда подорожало. Потому что оно у меня есть.
Now they can sell a cow for around 65,000 rubles or $950. A bull would cost 100,000 rubles or $1,500. Good money for rural areas that doesn't come with the risk of getting killed on a battlefield. Besides, they're always seeking ways to cut their expenses. For instance, they came up with an idea to heat their farm with sawdust that doesn't cost a thing in this region, which is famous for its vast forests and countless lumber mills. One day Lars and I passed a mountain of sawdust that anyone from this village can use for whatever they like.
And I've never seen so much sawdust in my life. It's just...
No, there's no shortages of sawdust in this region.
Surely you need a special boiler that can be fueled by sawdust, and the brothers designed their own.
Она поднимается вот сюда.
И насколько одного мешка пила хватает?
У меня дома хватает 4 мешка на сутки.
Ну это так нужно бегать менять.
Ну, как менять? Я приеду, в обед добавлю, вечером добавлю, и утром встаю, добавлю. Все.
Sawdust may not be the most efficient fuel in the world, but it's free and it's reduced our heating bill to zero. All that's left now is 6,000 rubles or $90 a month for electricity. And that's about all their utility costs.
Санкции, которые на Россию наложили после 24 февраля, мы их заслужили?
Я считаю, нет.
Почему?
Ну, потому что как бы эти санкции не сильно и влияют на нас. Они пытаются как бы нас остановить этими санкциями.
The more the United States and Europe tries to hit the general population with irritating sanctions, the more people will just, like, we could say, be angry at Europe and the States. It's like, what are you doing? It's not like, why should they get angry at Putin for something they do?
Okay, now let's check the same supermarket we visited last summer.
If anything can really make Russian people angry, the prices in
Groceries.
In a grocery store. Yeah.
Just so you know, Lars and I explored all kinds of grocery stores in this area, including small Soviet-style shops where everything is stored behind the counter so it's harder for shoplifters to steal. In one of these stores, I was ridiculed for trying to buy an original Coca-Cola.
А можно Кока-Колу купить?
Кока-колу
Оригинальную, настоящую. А Пепси настоящая, да?
Ну вот да, остались еще что-то.
Ну давайте Пепси одну баночку. No Coke in your settlement?
Nope.
And that's the last can of Pepsi.
Then I went to a mid-sized subsidized store that looked a bit undersupplied the last time we were here.
Well, what can I say right off the bat? There are more things on the shelves.
And here I run into the same shopkeeper who was angry at me for filming in the store. I tried to apologize, but it was awkward.
Зашел. Да, конечно. Я просто хотел извиниться, что когда снял, вам не понравилось это, да? Но вы меня простите.
I guess we'll never be friends. But the most popular grocery store in the area is a chain supermarket, which is the Russian equivalent of Aldi and Lidl. Here, Lars and I try to find the same products we bought last time and see if the prices had gone up.
This is nice. 49
$49
for buckwheat. It was more expensive last time, I'm pretty sure. Buckwheat is like the food index #1 in Russia.
Staple products like buckwheat and sugar have definitely come down in price. The imported dog food that Lars used to buy, on the contrary, has gotten even more expensive. Lavazza, the premium Italian coffee, has simply disappeared from the store.
Now there's no Lavazza really.
Although cheaper options are still available. But what really puzzled both of us is the variety and the prices of imported beer in this rural Russian supermarket.
65 rubles for German beer is pretty cheap.
Wow, it's really cheap. Maybe they say it's German, but it's actually...
No, it is German.
Yeah, it says it was produced in Ottingen in Germany.
If we talk about beer, for example,
And now there's more cheaper German import beer than before.
But this one is Loffe. This one I know, it's Belgian beer. It costs 99 rubles. If you are from Europe or from Belgium, let us know how much you pay for a can of Loffe.
all these brands that threatened that they'll leave Russia, Henkel, Nescafe, Nestle, Mondelez, whatever, they are working very good.
If you'd like to know what 1,000 rubles or 15 bucks can get you in this rural Russian supermarket, check out a 1-minute video in my short section. All in all, it seems that prices here haven't risen that much over the last 6-7 months, although food still costs significantly more than before the war. And of course, this weighs down on some people.
На ваш взгляд, цены сильно поднялись за последние полгода? Или не сильно?
Средний, короче.
Средний, да? Но поднялись.
Поднялись.
То есть тяжелее жизнь становится или легче при этом?
Конечно, тяжелее.
This small conversation I had in the store got me thinking, maybe I should talk to some of the most disadvantaged members of this community. Maybe they have a whole different perspective. Lars took me to his neighbor, grandmother Galina, a woman in her 80s that lives in a traditional village house and receives a pension of around $400, maybe $500. At the time I visited Lars's village, they were having new power lines installed, and so the electricity was off for a few hours. That didn't bother this grandmother at all. She sparked up a traditional brick oven that many Russians have been using for centuries for heating, sleeping, and cooking, and she whipped up the most delicious homemade dinner I've ever had.
There's no electricity, but we have candles, and we have very delicious homemade food, soup, mushrooms, tomatoes, cucumbers. Amazing.
She can definitely live like a month or 2 or 3 on 1,000 rubles because she has everything in the basement.
Do you think this Nana has better surviving skills than you?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
But what surprised me even more was that the Nana lives alone, has no TV, and doesn't have a smartphone, but still has a very detailed take on the war in Ukraine and current foreign affairs.
50 стран помогают оружием всем.
Не меньше, думаю.
А нам какие-то там дроны или что ли еще, не знаем, точно ли не точно они помогли, так это нельзя.
На Украине и на Западе говорят, что это же Россия начала эту войну.
Да, конечно,
мы же
Россия.
Первые вторглись.
Это германская-то выступила ведь, что мы обманывали вас.
Вы имеете в виду, Ангела Меркель сказала,
Да.
что Минские соглашения были...
Обман.
Да.
А этот французский, тут ведь они оба были. За 8 лет не могли договориться. А оказывается, они не собирались договариваться.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who will disagree with this hardcore woman. But the thing is, she'll never know about it. In fact, even if we imagine for a second that sanctions are gone and all is back to normal, she probably won't notice any change. The more self-sufficient people are, the less they care about what's going on outside. Funnily enough, the person hit hardest by Western sanctions in this village is a Danish YouTuber who's been grappling with international payments since the start of the war. But just like the rest of his Russian community, he takes it all in stride and carries on.
Somebody wants to polarize people in Europe, states, Russia. It doesn't matter if it's Germans against Germans, you are for against Ukraine, you're for against Russia. People are going really hard against each other. There's a polarization going on, and I think it's really bad for everybody to take this bait, so to speak.